Yo, what's going on, guys? It's July 30th, 2018. Now, a couple of days ago, I came across a photograph, a meme, that really hit me deep. I'm gonna go ahead and show it right here for you guys. And what you're looking at is a contrast between Redding, California on a normal, beautiful day. You can see the river and the mountains and that iconic sundial bridge right up here. And on the bottom, we have Redding, California right now, being torn up by wildfires. And the reason this photograph hit me so deep is because just a couple of months ago, I was actually in Redding, California, and I was on that sundial bridge looking at those mountains right above that river. I was there with a buddy of mine, a filmmaker, JJ. You guys haven't met him yet, but you will soon, and we were there shooting some stuff for Above Majestic. So looking at this picture, when we were there, and I fell in love with the area. It was beautiful there in Redding, Northern California. To see it being burned to the ground right now, it was just awful. So that inspired me to create this video. And what I'm going to discuss with you here is these California wildfires and how they're not so wild. It's not a magic occurrence. It's not a random incident as to why California is becoming so dry and so freaking flammable right now. And the reason it's becoming so prone to these fires is because of geoengineering. Geoengineering, more colloquially called chemtrails, for lack of a better term. Geoengineering is a little more technical. We can also call them the atmospheric aerosol spraying. You always see those things over your head quite often, especially on the West Coast here. We're going to particularly talk about why that happens on the West Coast, but we see them over our heads all the time. A lot of people think it's just water vapor, but it's not. They are black budget programs spraying aluminum, spraying strontium, spraying barium, spraying a bunch of other stuff, Lord knows what, over our heads, often every single day. So the point of this video is not going to be why, that's a discussion for another time, but we're going to discuss the effect, the fallout of all of these sprays being done across the country, and we're going to primarily discuss how it affects the weather patterns, because we're going to talk about why California is so dry. So let's begin out here on the West Coast. If you are from the West Coast, I live in the Northwest here, and I've been up and down the West Coast. If you're from the West Coast, you know how heavy the aerosol spraying is out here. They do it in their freaking grid patterns all the time. So they're spraying these aerosols all up and down the West Coast, especially over California. Outside of California, along the ocean and over California is hit very hard, and it's for a very specific reason in terms of weather manipulation, weather warfare. So when we have all of these sprays being done, what that does is it releases trillions and trillions and trillions of particulates into the air. And we're going to primarily focus on aluminum here. I just mentioned a few of the things that has been found in these chemtrail sprays, but aluminum is the one that we are primarily focused with. So when they spray, trillions and trillions and trillions of little aluminum hydroxide molecules are released into the atmosphere. And what this does in terms of weather is that it doesn't let clouds form. It doesn't let clouds form because when you have trillions and trillions and trillions of more particulates, more called condensation nuclei, technically, and I'm going to plug somebody right here really quick. If you want more information on all this, and where I particularly got this knowledge from is Dane Wigington at geoengineeringwatch.org. Ironically, when I was in Redding, California, just a couple of months ago, one of the people I was interviewing was Dane Wigington. Now here I am doing a video on geoengineering about Redding, California. Just the way it all works out. Anyway, shout out to Dane. Go check out his YouTube. I'll link it down below, and his website. But anyway, you get all of these trillions of more particulates, more condensation nuclei into the atmosphere. Clouds cannot form because clouds form by water vapor up in the atmosphere, attaching itself to particulates, dust particles, whatever it is, and then once enough water attaches itself to a particulate, it falls. Well, when you have trillions and trillions and trillions plus of more particulates, more nuclei in the air, water vapor enough water vapor, I should say, can attach to these particulates and get heavy enough to fall, you see? So with these chemtrails in the atmosphere, clouds aren't going to form. And these aerosol sprays have been happening for years and years and years. That's why California is getting drier and drier and drier. It's because of the geoengineering programs. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that aluminum is highly flammable, super flammable. And when it's being sprayed everywhere and that aluminum hydroxide dust is slowly falling onto everything, falling onto homes, onto cars, onto us, and onto trees, forests, foliage, grasses in the area, it's basically making it much more flammable. And when aluminum burns, it burns very hot. It's very tough to put out. So you couple the fact that California is just getting super dry, rain's not falling, with the fact that aluminum is falling on everything, and of course you're not getting any rainfall to wash away that aluminum that's just sticking to everything. That's just a recipe for fire disaster, right? We're not even going to talk about the directed energy weaponry and the questions a lot of people have, how were these fires started? It could have just been started by a cigarette being flicked out the window. But the fact that everything is so dry and everything is extra flammable just means that even one little cigarette butt or one little joint that somebody just flicks on the side of the road without a second thought grows into a 100,000 acre fire very fast, and it's very tough for firefighters to fight. So this is why California is so dry, so prone to wildfires, and these wildfires are just getting awful, okay? Last thing I want to touch on is the rest of the weather track. So we're going to talk about the country as a whole now, not just the West Coast, and how these geoengineering programs are affecting the whole weather pattern across the country, because this will just help connect a few dots for you as to why our whole country is getting screwed by these geoengineering programs, not just the West Coast. So we talked about how the West Coast is getting more dry. Clouds literally can't form over here. No clouds, okay? But remember, what did I say earlier? All of these particulates, all of these condensation nuclei up in the atmosphere, the stuff that doesn't fall, like I was saying, is still up there floating around. So what happens as the weather track moves inland, moves east? Well, all of those condensation nuclei then begin attaching more water to it. You get into the humid southeast down here, and all that humidity, all the water in the atmosphere then begins to attach to those particulates that were sprayed. So what then happens when you have, again, more particulates with water vapor finally beginning to attach to them? You get bigger clouds, bigger storms. Why do you think all these hurricanes are getting so massive that are slamming the southeast? Hurricane Harvey, these hurricanes are just absolutely huge, and they grow into Category 5 storms from Category 1 storms within a matter of days, within a week. They're just getting huge, right? And that's because of more water in the atmosphere. These geoengineering programs are strengthening them because there's more particulates, there's more water vapor up in the atmosphere. They allow the storms to grow larger. You'll also notice there's more chemtrail spraying that happens in the southeast here. I visited Florida before. I was in Tampa looking out over the Gulf, and my God, it was amazing how the sprays just created this like atmospheric film. Your visibility is hardly a few miles on a perfectly sunny day, all because of the man-made clouds, right? So these chemtrails are sprayed in the southeast to then strengthen the storms, not to make it more dry. More dry is what happens out west. East, the storms get bigger and stronger, and they spray even more as the storms approach from the Atlantic in. They spray ahead of them to strengthen the storms, make them even bigger. So that's what's happening out east. And then we get, up into the northeast and the Midwest, we get all kinds of crazy weather. We get storm fronts where literally within the span of like a mile, it'll shift from rain to snow. There's like a line, you could take just a few steps. Total crazy weather patterns. And not only that, but the lightning storms. The lightning storms are getting massive. Again, why is that? Well, what do we have in our atmosphere, basically over the whole country right now? Aluminum. Aluminum, highly conductive. So you're spraying a bunch of highly conductive stuff in front of these hurricanes. Great, they're going to be giant electric storms, and we know our whole solar system, especially our Earth, is moving into more electric, more energetic regions of the galaxy. So what's that doing? Well, shoot, more electricity onto our Earth. We're strengthening these storms with a bunch of aluminum. That's just a recipe for freaking disaster right there. So these storms get more electrically active, more electrical conductivity up in the atmosphere in the Midwest, greater lightning storms, right? So as you can see, I think I'll stop there with my etching on the board. These geoengineering programs are destroying the weather patterns all across the country. They're destroying them in many different ways, from drought to greater rainfall to heavier lightning storms to just all kinds of biosphere destruction, truly, right? The awareness of this issue needs to happen. We need to talk about it. We need to understand that, well, climate change, yeah, the climate's changing for sure. There's a lot of natural causes to it. There's some human components, but the human components to climate change is not what they tell us. It's this right here. It's the stuff they call us conspiracy theorists for believing in, but it's absolutely real. The real man-made climate change is caused by geoengineering programs, is caused by these GEOENG towers, these HARP installations, these massive nationwide electromagnetic programs as well. So understand that. Understand that climate change, yes, a lot of it is natural, but a lot of it is man-made, but it's not man-made in the ways they're telling us, right? So that's the point of this video. And now you know why California is so dry and so freaking flammable. It's because of this right here. So that's all for that one, folks. Thanks for watching. There'll be much more very soon. If you're in California, please stay safe. And if you're anywhere where these geoengineering sprays are constantly laid above our heads, please, please work on detoxifying yourself, keeping yourself healthy, and spreading awareness about them. All it takes is a simple question. You're out in public, see one in the sky, just ask your buddy, hey, that's weird. They think it's water vapor? All you gotta say is, wouldn't water vapor dissipate? Yeah, that's not water vapor. Done.